Hi, Namaste, Namaskar, Vanakkam. Welcome to my vlog, the DVKS vlog. Today I am going to present the review of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. So let's get started. Money. Yes, the thing that school will not teach us about. How to get financial intelligence and how to get financial independence, how to take financial decisions in real life settings. So these are the questions that we will get very often when we think of the financial matters. So this book will answer all these type of questions and it will bring out new perspective towards the money itself. A wise man once said that it's too costly to experiment and experience the money by themselves. So it's always better to learn from the mistakes of the others. So friends, the DVKS vlog presenting you the review of the book Rich Dad Poor Dad. What the rich teaches their kids about the money that poor and middle class do not. So let's dive into the contents of this book. Title suggests understanding of money and the management style of poor and rich dad of the author. The title makes us to think how a poor and rich handle or manage their money without revealing much about how the rich and poor dad had taught other about the value of the money in one's life. Author surprises the readers by comparing two dads' advices, and that's going to carry the thought process of the author in his life. It will be revealed in forthcoming content that how the rich dad had taught the six great lessons, and those are given as chapters for the benefit of the readers. And I will assure you this book will be a lot of surprises. So the first lesson will be starting with the introduction of author with the rich dad. The author will actually think he will consider that his own dad as a poor and who actually speaks about or very much critical about the money and the life strategies, and who have got earned a PhD and is a teacher as well. And the author will be introduced to the Mike's father, who is not that educated, but he will be a successful man in his area, and the Mike's dad, who the author considered as rich dad. So this rich dad will be introduced to our author Robert while he was 9 year old. So this first lesson will be very much fascinating and it will be very interesting that how the author met the rich dad and how he used to think about, how he used to intercept about the money, and how these 9 year old kids, Mike and Robert, have started their business and they terribly failed but eventually learned a big life lessons. And this lesson will be diving into the experiences of author both emotionally and intellectually, and this lesson will be ending with few questions, that the take home questions that the author put forth for ourselves. For reading the entire chapter, we may end up with few questions in our mind, and these questions, if we can answer, if we can discuss well, we can apply this lesson, that is, the rich don't work for the money. So what are all those questions that we can ask ourselves, as well as what author has suggested few questions in the additional questions section of the book. So that is, how common is the approach to money taken by the poor, Robert's poor dad. So this question brings out the thought process of Robert's poor dad, the one who is highly literate and the one who earned PhD, and but still he will be struggling to pay the bills at the end of the month. So the author questions our understanding of the chapter by bringing out this type of questions, that is, how common is the approach. It means the approach of poor dad will be a common or most often we see in anyone's life, that middle class or a poor class family will be having this kind of approach, the approach to the money, that is, like, you earn good university certificate and you earn good marks so that you will be placed in a job where you can work for the money. But But the rich dad is contrary to that. So he suggests that we should not work for the money, but money should work for us. So this is a question that Robert put forth for us, for the readers. That is, how common this approach to money taken by the Roberts put. When I was reading this chapter, I thought that this is the ultimate question, and this question can be asked to anyone in the world, and they will be replying that this will be the as common approach that we will be seeing worldwide. That is, get good marks, get certificate, get placed in a good industry or company and earn the money. But to the contrary, the rich dad has his views to this contrary, and he will be putting forth the idea of money should work for us, not we should not work for the money. So asking the next question, that is, do you think do you think most people realize they are stuck in the rat race? Why or why not? So other question that is posted by the Robert is that, are we stuck in the rat race? The rat race that will say that we have to earn money so that we will be happy. So if we earn money, we can spend more money, and again we'll be happy. So this kind of mindset is questioned by the Robert, and he suggests that earning more money will not be sufficient, or earning more money will not solve the problems. So he puts that we'll be stuck in the rat race of earning more money. Earn more money, spend more money, and you'll be end up with debts. So this kind of question is asked by the Robert, and this question signifies that the understanding of money and how we handle the money. So how we perceive the money itself. So we perceive the money that if we have more money, we will be rich, and rich will not have any problems. No. If we have more money, yeah, we'll be rich, but still we will be having problems that are not addressed. So problems that are related to money itself. So it doesn't work like having more money will solve our all problems related to the money and will not end up with debts. No, because having more money, we will be spending more money, and again we will be facing the debts. So this first lesson will be a huge interesting things that author have learned in his at the age of 9 years, and how they start up their business of a comic book library, and how they started earning. And the main thing is that how rich dad started teaching the author Robert about the money. So the approach of the rich dad towards the Robert is quite practical. So that practicality will be covered in this first chapter. So I think that the readers will definitely dive into the experiences of the author when he was when he was a child, and it will be very interesting to know that during his childhood itself he has its own business plans, and he has a new perspective to the money where we might not have taught by anyone else, or we might not taught by the school itself. So this is the end of this chapter, and these are the few questions that we can take from these lessons, and we can think about our lives, and we can think how we can apply these questions into our life. How common is our approach to the money, and how we are stuck in rat race. So these two questions out of 8 questions we can ask or intercept ourselves, and we can apply this lesson into our lives. So let's go to the second lesson that author has learned from the rich dad. The second lesson is why teach financial literacy. By the way, what is financial literacy and why we need that in one's life? So if you have these questions in mind, yes, all answers are in this chapter or this lesson. In this lesson, we'll be learning about the liabilities and assets. And interestingly, we will come to understand at one point while reading this chapter, that is, the ones we think that the assets are turn out to be a liabilities. It means that till now we will be thinking that few things are our assets, but they are actually liabilities, and which actually the cash flow pattern that I am going to show now will be there for the liabilities. In this lesson, we will be learning about the cash flow mechanisms and its how we can draw out a simple balance sheets for ourselves. So I'll be showing now. So this is the cash flow mechanism or balance sheet we say, right? You can see here in the balance sheet we will have assets and liabilities, and from the assets, which is a positive thing, and from the assets our cash will flow into the income, and from the liabilities the cash flows into the expenses. So based upon our income and expenses, we can draw this income statement. So you can see here assets, liabilities in the balance sheet, and expenses, income. Assets, if we have assets, the cash will flow into the income. If we have liabilities, the cash will flow into the expenses. So this is the cash flow pattern of the liability. In the balance sheet we have liabilities. This liabilities will, due to this liabilities, the expenses will be more, and through the expenses the cash will be flowing out of our income statement. So these are the two cash flow patterns which are from assets and which are from liabilities that I have first learned from this book. And trust me, as a biology student, I am not aware of these terms, but this book has given a simple layman language where we can easily understand the concepts well. While reading this book, as I've shown before, that you can see clearly that the cash flow pattern of an asset and cash flow pattern of a liability. So when we have assets, that the cash flow will be into the income, and when we have liabilities, the cash flow will be into the expenses, and when we have more expenses, the cash will flow out of the income statement. So this is the simple notation, and I trust that anyone can learn from this simple chart and simple definitions of asset and liabilities. And while I was reading, I was wondered and I was fascinated to know that once I thought the house, having house is an asset, but it is a liability. Author clearly explains why this house is a, why the rich dad kept this home as a liability, but poor dad kept this house as an asset, where these things will be discussed in this chapter, and those are very well discussed. And I was very much fascinated to know that, and I was shocked to know that the house, buying a house is no more an asset, and buying a home is an liability. As like previous chapters, author Robert will give few more additional questions in the additional question section, and we can figure it out what you understand by this lesson, and we can get that essence of the lesson by answering this type of questions as follows. When did your financial education begin? Was it with this book or from any other source? So this question is little interesting, because my financial literacy started with this book, that is Rich Dad Poor Dad, where I don't know about others and you, but still I can imagine or I can guess that this kind of approach, that is the simple definitions of liability and assets, are not discussed anywhere in other sources like school or from other elderly persons. But this book will give, this lesson will give us a clear cut understanding of what is an asset and what are liabilities. So with this question, I can assure, or I can say that I have got this financial literacy from this book itself. And going to the next question, how did you react when he stated that a home is an asset? Had you viewed yours as a one? After he fully laid out his argument, did he change your mind? So this author is asking about, uh, till now we are thinking that house is an asset, but he put forth an argument, well written argument, that house is nothing but a liability. So not only that, there are few other arguments put forth by the author which you can read in this lesson and you will be fascinated to know that. So I have changed my mind when I have read this chapter. When I was in 9th standard, my mother passed away, where we used to have a home by ourselves. So we had to sell that home because of some financial debts, and we sold it. But from then till I read this book, I used to think that the home is an asset, so that if you have a home, the income would be increasing. But by reading this book, I figured out, or I understand, that the thoughts are nothing but emotional. So because of the emotional attachment to the house that I want to buy, where I didn't think of my expenses. So when I read this book, I got to understand that I'm very much emotional when it comes to buying a house, rather than critical and rather than intellectual. So this book has given and I was very much surprised to know that house is no more an asset. And I'm damn sure that if you, while reading this book, you will also get fascinated, and you will be knowing that house is no more an asset, and definitely it will shape your future of saving the money, which will, it will help you in future while saving the money and buying the home. You can rethink of it. But author will not suggest that not to buy, but he will say that if you have an income source, constantly a constant income source, which can come into your income balance sheet, so then you can opt for buying an house. But if there is no income source, proper income source, where the home have to buy, so you have to rethink, or you have to think twice while you are going to decide that you want to buy a house. So in this chapter, these are the two messages that we can take home, and we can think of our understanding and how we think, what are all the liabilities and what are all the assets. So this chapter will give clear cut information or clear cut understanding about that, and I hope you will also get that wonderful experience. So the third lesson, mind your business, is what the rich dad had taught the author. And minding our own business is really a radical one, because we need to understand what is a profession and what is a business. And if we desire to do, if we desire to grow, or if you want to keep a company, we need to have the desire to keep that, without any further attachment. Would Robert would suggest that they are not ready to start a company. So something, there should be a financial foundation for the starting up business when compared to profession. So in this chapter we will be learning about what are all the net worth that ones think that they are net worth, but they aren't, and how we can figure out what are all the assets and what are all the categories that assets fall in. So this chapter has given beautifully about 7 assets that uh, Robert has saying about. So before that, we will be seeing that one story, as Robert has took one example of the owner of the McDonald's, where uh, when he has to have a interaction with the students of Texas, University of Texas, where Ray asked few students about what business that Ray is into, but the students had replied that he is into the business of hamburgers, but he laughed at them, and he said that he is not into the business of hamburgers, but he is into the business of real estate. Yes, my friends, McDonald's, if you see Nook and Corner, we are having McDonald's, where actually you can find that he is owning the area. that he started the McDonald's at particular spaces. So he is having many intertwined connections between many cities and street corners, where it's a huge real estate business. So that's what the difference between a profession and the business that Robert is speaking about. And Robert Friend took it very seriously about this, and he started his car wash profession. But under the car wash, the area that is there is nothing but real estating area. So as McDonald's applied the same logic, buying the land which is under their outlets. So in this way, the real estate worked for the McDonald's, and it is a huge news during 1974s. And if you see in this chapter, we'll be learning about the assets. What are all the assets that Robert has discussing? So let us see what are all those. First one, business that do not require his presence. He owned them, but they are managed or run by other people. If he has to work there, it's not a business, it becomes his job. So in the first thing of the asset is that without we don't have to be there to run the business. So when we call it as business, when we don't require our presence, in absence of us, the business has running, then it is called as business, if they can manage in that way. So that is called an asset by the Robert. And the second one is stocks, third one is bonds, fourth one is income generating real estate, fourth one is notes, and the sixth one is royalties from intellectual properties such as music, script and patents. So these are all considered as assets by the Robert. And the seventh one is anything else that has value, produce income or appreciates and has a ready market. So the fourth lesson has come here, and that is nothing but the history of taxes and the power of corporations. So when we think about corporation and taxes, Robert gives an example of Robin Hood. People will see that Robin Hood as hero, but author will see him as a crook, where he actually robs some money from the rich and gives to the poor. Where rich dad do not share that same opinion. Though the popular sentiment is that the rich should pay more taxes and give to the poor, in reality it will not work in that fashion, where the middle class and poor has got more taxed heavily, and especially the educated upper income middle class used to pay more taxes. So this entire lessons will take us to understand that what are the taxes and what are all the how they are operated in the present life scenario. At the end of the chapter, again we had few questions in this chapter. That is, let us see one of the question. Do you think members of the middle class and poor realize that the burden of taxes has fallen to them? What effects that do you see? So if we, after reading this lesson, we will be clearly understanding that the rich will not pay more taxes, but the upper middle class paying more taxes. We will realize by the end of the lesson that the rich is not the one who pays the more taxes, but the middle class and the poor will be paying the more taxes. So this is the gist of the fourth lesson, that is the history of taxes and the power of corporations. So we'll be learning all this stuff in this lesson. So let's see the fifth lesson. The fifth lesson is nothing but the rich invent money. Yes. So in this lesson we'll be learning about the money is invented by rich, but how? In what way? Actually here we'll be discussing about ideas. So ideas are nothing but billions worth. So the mind is billions worth, and the ideas that comes from it is billions of worth. Money isn't real, but the ideas that comes from the brain is real, and how they work for us is what the real thing. So rich invent money through the ideas that they have, and we have got different of examples when right from the starting of Graham Bell business, and we have got TV business, newspapers. So these are all businesses where they invest the ideas. So everyone have fear and self-doubt, and we all have tremendous potential, and we all have self-doubts. So with the self-doubt, what we will do is we will be stuck in somewhere, and 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 we cannot move further. So there will be a lot of reasons put forth, like, I can't handle this technology. This technology is what actually stopping me. But for that matter, it's not the technology who stops, but it's your mindset that it stops. So here, the Robert put forth the new perspective to money. That is, money isn't real, by the way, but just what we agree it is. Isn't our greatest asset? Yes, it is asset. That is nothing but our mind is. So our mind is an asset, and we have to use it for inventing money. Train it well. Millions can be made from nothing more than ideas and agreements. So based upon the ideas and agreements, we can make millions. And like any other lesson, author Robert has put forth few questions for the readers, and we are dealing with one question here, that is, some people have a lot of money but do not get ahead financially. Why is that? They think that the ideas are old and they cannot work. So in this way, in this lesson, we will be understanding about what are all the ideas and how they were work, and how actually rich invented the money, which isn't a real thing, apparent thing. Money is nothing but apparent thing. The sixth lesson that our author Robert learned from Rich Dad is work to learn, don't work for money. So this is a mindset that Rich Dad of the Robert has, and this is a lesson that Robert has learned in the childhood. It is not we should work for the money, but money should work for us, as well as we should not cease our learning. So we should be constant learning, and we have to fail quickly, and we have to know our loop back our setbacks, and we have to work on it. This lesson we will be understanding what is the mindset of the Rich Dad, and how he taught Robert, the author, with a different perspective of the money itself. So Robert has decided to choose the path of the Rich Dad over Poor Dad by this interesting mindset. Poor Dad mindset is like this. That is, job security meant everything to my educated dad. Learning meant everything to my rich dad. So if you see this statement, you can understand that job security, having a job, and having income from the job is what the normal approach of the poor dad of the author. The money have to work for us, and we should constantly learn is the mindset of the uh, rich dad of the author. So in this lesson we will understand the mindset of the rich dad well. So as we can see that here we author asked about 6 questions at the end of the chapter, that we can introspect ourselves, and whether we are really doing the right thing, or whether we are working for money or money is working for us, we can understand by these questions. And let us take one question from this. Do you know extremely talented people who make very little money? Why could they be doing differently? Yes, there are extremely talented people out there, and they will be earning very less. Why is that? Because they will be stuck in the rat race, and they will feel that the liabilities are assets, and they will not take risks, and they look for a job, they look for a profession, and they get emotionally attached to the profession, and they will be paying a lot of taxes. And you can see that the job security option that is there in the mindsets will make poorer, and middle class staying in the same lines. But rich will think ahead, and they will have a learning perspective, and they'll have a real time perspective of what is an asset, what is a liability. Their ideas will work for the money, and they make their money out of their ideas. And in this fashion, you can see that though there are talented persons out there, they still struggle financially. So this is the final lesson that author have learned, and we have got few more chapters in this book, and those are all for readers, and you can have a glance of it when you buy this book. And these are the six lessons that Robert has taught by his rich dad. So hopefully, I think that these six lessons that we have reviewed so far will give a glimpse of mindset of author, as well as mindset of rich dad as well. Let's go into the gist of the book. Following lines are stunning beauty of comparison with examples. It goes like, poor dad would say, the love of money is root cause of all evil. And the other says, the lack of money is root cause of all the evil. So these lines reveal the mindset of their economical and practical experiences of poor and rich dad. Poor dad was emotional about the money and less practical and critical about his views, whereas Rich Dad was a visionary and has sound experience in the financial management and accounting strategies than the poor dad of the author. Readers will be able to get inspired by the approach of the author in writing the entire book based upon the real life experiences with his two dads and their approach towards the monetary value. Interesting to learn that the author has spent most of his time uh, in reflecting and questioning himself and his financial decisions based upon the lessons he had learned from the rich dad. This book is a thorough economical or financial introspection of the author. Lines: what can poor parents tell their child about the money? They simply say, stay in school and study hard. This line explains how we deviate from addressing actual problem and life-saving skills. It gives insight and raises questions like how to teach our kids the financial strategies and how to acquire money in one's life. There are as many as statements given by or statements from poor and rich dad, put forth to the young author Robert, but finally he decides to choose to listen to his rich dad advice and follow his footsteps. So this book is full of surprises and full of learning about the money, and according to my experience, perspective of money has got changed tremendously, and I can differentiate between assets and liabilities, and where I am falling and where I have to invest and what I have to invest in. And these are all the things that we can get from this book, and I hope this review will be helpful for you to pick this book and read this book and apply these six lessons in one's life and get financial success. So link is in description, and so I think that this book will help you a lot in your financial strategies and financial literacy, and you can begin your finances at any point of your age. And this book is a perfect book to understand the financial strategies and financial terms as well, and how money will work for us. So friends, please like the video and please do not forget to subscribe, and please do share as much as you can. I'm your DVK signing out.